What's up, guys? It's the Casual Horror Fan channel. Today, I have a pretty awesome video for you. May be a little bit controversial. It's sort of a response to Cody Leach, who I'm a massive fan of. And honestly, this channel probably wouldn't exist if it weren't for Cody Leach. So I do want to get this out here. But I saw his video, and immediately I was like, I have to respond to this. So this is essentially a response to his and other people. I think I saw that's me. A Lost River Drive-In making a video, and he was saying, hey, if you think Bear is the villain or isn't the villain, then I don't even know we watched the same movie. So I'm going to make the case here that Bear is, in fact, it's overly simplistic to say that Bear is the villain. So let's get into things. Quick spoiler warning. We're getting into full plot details and the ending here. So if you haven't seen Obsession yet, somehow, because it's been in theaters literally forever, just watch it first. But there's going to be spoilers throughout this. And again, I do ask, before you thumb down the video, before you call me a dummy or anything like that, just hear me out, okay? Here's where I actually land on the question of Bear's villainy. If we want to pick a villain, if we have to pick a villain, or we have to choose the most morally bankrupt character in the story, it is Bear. But it's also worth considering that the person who causes the actual evil in the movie, or who engages in the most evil, is obviously Nikki. And I think that juxtaposition, the gap between who's responsible and who's actually dangerous, is what makes the story so compelling in the first place. Now, let's talk about Bear's actual sins. I think people overstate them to an extent. His biggest flaws are selfishness and cowardice. Those are real sins. Those are genuine character flaws, and they can absolutely lead to evil. But they're also sins that most of us commit on a regular basis. A lot of the argument for Bear being the villain relies on knowledge that we, the audience, have, which is that the One Wish Willow definitely worked. But put yourself in Bear's shoes for a second. His world is identical to ours. It's entirely reasonable for him to have not full knowledge, but instead a sneaking suspicion that something's off, while also being fairly convinced that a novelty toy from a gift shop didn't actually grant a wish, because that doesn't happen. That skepticism holds up even after things get bizarre, and honestly, the movie backs this up. When Bear finally tells his friend the truth and begs him to help reverse it, the friend doesn't take it seriously either. Even after watching Nikki's descent into madness firsthand, even after him being so concerned about their relationship and what's going on there. If a second person watching all that chaos up pretty close, or a lot of the chaos up close, still doesn't believe it, then Bear's own slowness to accept it isn't villainy. It's just a reasonable human response to something insane. Now, here's a moment that I think speaks to his character positively. Early on, right after he breaks the One Wish Willow, before he has any real reason to believe it worked, Nikki comes onto him hard at his house. And what does he do? Now, keep in mind, this is the girl of his dreams. We're saying it's not love, it's lust. Sure, maybe it is. He doesn't sleep with her. And why? Not because he knows the One Wish Willow. No, because he senses something is wrong with her. He thinks she might be on drugs, and that's kind of the conclusion that they reach. If he was a selfish monster that some people are making him out to be, this is the easiest moment in the world to take advantage of her, and he doesn't. Again, he's been in love with this girl, and that first thing, 5 years? And here she is throwing himself at her, and she seems coherent. She seems not a stable mind, but she doesn't seem like she's not falling all over the place. And he says, no, something's off. He doesn't want to sleep in the same bed as her. To me, that speaks to positive aspects of his character. Now, some people point to a later scene right after dinner, and I know Cody points to this, where Nikki has a complete breakdown, and the movie then cuts to them being intimate. They call that scene grape because she's not fully herself. And look, that's a fair thing to sit with. But the movie never establishes that Bear is certain at that point that she's a different person entirely. He knows something is wrong. He's not convinced that she's then possessed by a wish. The same night, it's that same night is when he calls the One Wish Willow customer service line, and they tell him the wish only expires when he dies. And after that call, after he actually has the confirmation, he does not sleep with her again for the rest of the film. That distinction is worth acknowledging. People also make a big deal about Bear not immediately going out and grabbing a second One Wish Willow to undo it. Let's consider that he probably doesn't think it's real, but also that argument doesn't hold up because the customer service told him point blank that the wish only ends when he dies. From his knowledge, getting a new Willow was never going to fix anything. Moving on. Bear's life is miserable fairly early on, and he wants out. And despite the fact that he's genuinely tortured, he acknowledges that he caused this. There's this real sacrifice happening here. At any point, he could have had Nikki institutionalized. He could have had her arrested. He could have run away and started a new life somewhere else. He does none of that. Instead, he stays and tries to comfort her, tries to care for her, tries to give her some version of a normal life. If you want to condemn him for not killing himself right then and there, which would have been the most pure, true martyr's path, I think that's fair, but I don't think it's reasonable to call the rest of his choices selfish. And again, I'm coming at this from a Christian lens. Our martyrs wear a crown. Not everyone wears a crown. You wear a crown as a distinction from the average person who's not going to give up your life for the well-being of another. People also bring up him talking to his coworker Sarah and flirting with her a little. But think about what his life is actually at this point. It's destroyed. He's miserable, understandably so. And she offers him a way out, even if it's just emotionally. That's an incredibly human thing to reach for. And finally, let's talk about the bathroom scene near the end. Bear locks himself in there, intending to shoot himself, and he can't go through with it. Instead, he swallows the last of his pills, then changes his mind again and tries to make himself throw them back up. People act like this proves he's a coward. And honestly, to an extent, it does. But that's exactly the point. He knows the right thing to do in that moment. He understands it fully, and still this primal flaw in him wins out. That doesn't make him a monster. It makes him human in the same way most of us are. I think the proper way to read this whole movie is a Shakespearean tragedy. Bear isn't some scheming villain plotting evil from the start. He's a man with a fatal flaw, cowardice, a weakness, the inability to be the martyr the situation demands. And that flaw, combined with the one impulsive decision he can never take back, spirals into an outcome that destroys everyone around him. That's not villainy, that's tragedy. And honestly, the tension between a flawed human main character and the genuine horror his one mistake unleashes is exactly what makes Obsession worth talking about. Anyway, guys, did I get you? Do you agree? Do you disagree? That's my take. I wrote out a script for it. Let me know what you guys. Otherwise, it is the Casual Horror Fan video. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. I try to upload 3 times a week. I am out.